Welcome to today's devotional message. You prayed, you fasted, you waited, and still, silence. Maybe this message is the sign you didn't know you needed. If these words meet you right where you are, like, share, and subscribe. It helps us reach more souls who need God's comfort. Comment below with your favorite Bible promise or the one you're still holding on to in the waiting. Let's begin, and let His Word breathe new life into yours. You sit by the window. The world outside hums with a rhythm you don't seem to share, bustling with lives that appear to be moving forward, finding their answers. But inside you feel only a vast, echoing silence. It's a quiet that presses in, heavy and suffocating. Your prayers feel like they bounce off the ceiling, not just unheard, but perhaps even unseen by the one you're crying out to. The hopes you held so tightly yesterday, the vibrant colors of possibility, feel faded today, fragile and distant, like a mirage receding with every silent hour. You've waited, you've pleaded, you've reasoned. You've meticulously replayed every step, every decision, trying to understand why this door hasn't opened. Why this painful situation hasn't changed? Why this long-sought healing hasn't come? Maybe in the deepest quiet of your soul, you whisper the questions that burn like hot embers. God, are you still there? Do you see me here in this waiting? Do you care that my heart is breaking? This isn't a momentary flicker of doubt, a fleeting shadow that passes. It's a persistent ache that settles deep in your bones, a weariness that makes faith feel not like a light, empowering garment, but a heavy cloak you're struggling, failing to keep on. This feeling of being unseen, unheard, or forgotten in the long, drawn-out waiting is a universal human experience. It's the wilderness journey where the next oasis isn't in sight, and the promised land seems impossibly far across sand and sky. It is, perhaps, one of the most challenging tests of faith a soul can face. It's easy to trust God when things are visibly moving, when breakthroughs arrive with fanfare, when answers are swift and clear as a mountain spring. But what about the long seasons where nothing seems to happen? Where the landscape of your life remains stubbornly unchanged, the promises you cling to seemingly suspended in air? Where the wilderness stretches endlessly before you, a monotonous horizon of not yet? This stillness from heaven, this quietness in response to your earnest cries, can feel profoundly like abandonment. Your spiritual lamp feels low on oil, waiting for a flame that doesn't come. Your small mustard seed of faith feels buried under the weight of the unmoving mountain. But what if this silence isn't absence? What if the waiting isn't denial, but a divine appointment? What if God is doing a profound, essential work in you, a work for you, or even a crucial work through you in this very moment? A work that requires the cover of quiet and the hidden strength that only patience under pressure can forge. What if God's loudest answers often arrive not in thunder, but in the whisper we only hear when we are finally still enough to listen? This message is for you. If you've ever felt lost in the long pause, if your faith feels tested and strained by the unmoving circumstances surrounding you, if your heart longs for a sign, a whisper, a simple knowing that God hasn't forgotten you here in the quiet, then lean in closer. Because even here, in the deepest silence, the undeniable whisper of His presence is waiting, ready to breathe life into the weary places of your soul. He is closer than you think. He is working in ways you cannot see. He is holding you, even when you feel you are falling. Welcome to today's devotional message from Trusting God Always. There are days, aren't there, when the sky feels silent. You prayed, you fasted, you waited, and still silence. The answer you desperately longed for hasn't arrived. The circumstances haven't shifted. The breakthrough feels like a cruel whisper on the wind. Maybe you're standing on a desolate shore right now, watching waves of unanswered questions crash at your feet. You've poured out your heart, laid bare your deepest needs, perhaps even bargained in the quiet spaces of your soul. And the echo you hear seems to confirm your worst fear. You're unseen, unheard, perhaps even forgotten. This silence isn't just the absence of sound. It feels like the absence of God. It can be a heavy cloak, stifling hope, making the vibrant colors of faith fade to gray. You replay the promises in your mind, the verses you've clung to, the testimonies you've heard. But they feel like distant stars, beautiful, but too far away to light your immediate path. Doubt, like a persistent vine, begins to wrap around your spirit, whispering questions you tried desperately to ignore. Did I do something wrong? Was my faith not strong enough? Does God even care about this? This message is for the soul in the waiting. It's for the one who feels the ache of unanswered prayer and wonders if faith is truly worth the cost of such vulnerability. It's for the heart that's weary from looking for a sign, for a flicker of light in the deepening twilight. You are not alone in this space of uncertainty. The scriptures are filled with those who waited, who questioned, who wrestled in the dark corners of their lives, searching for the face of God in seasons of apparent absence. Think of Abraham, waiting decades for a son. Think of Joseph, abandoned in a pit, sold into slavery, forgotten in a prison, his dreams seemingly shattered. Think of David, hiding in caves, running for his life, hunted by the very king he served, yet writing psalms that echo the tension between despair and defiant hope. Their stories are not just historical accounts, they're signposts on the path you might be walking now. They show us that the wait is often part of the journey, the silence part of the conversation, and the struggle part of the making. This is where faith is not just a comfortable belief, but a fierce, stubborn, miraculous choice. It's choosing to believe in the unseen hand of God, even when your own hands feel empty. It's choosing to trust His heart, even when you can't understand His ways. It's choosing to lean into His promises, even when your reality screams otherwise. This is the heart of trusting God always. Finding the courage to trust, not because we see clearly, but despite the haze. This is more than just a video. It's an invitation into a sacred space, a moment to breathe and remember who God is and who you are in Him. We will explore together how God's truth intersects with our daily struggles, how His divine promises are not just lofty ideals, but anchors for our storm-tossed souls, and how ordinary lives are transformed, not by the absence of pain or waiting, but by the presence of a God who works all things together for our good, even when we cannot perceive it. We'll look at the wilderness seasons, the valley moments, the seemingly barren places where God is doing His most profound work. If these words meet you right where you are, if they feel like a gentle hand reaching out in your season of doubt or waiting, consider this your sign. Like, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps us reach more souls who need God's comfort, encouragement, and the steady reminder that they are seen, loved, and held. It allows this message of hope to travel further, touching hearts that might be wrestling with the very questions you are. and I'd love to hear from you. Comment below with your favorite Bible promise, the verse that has carried you through difficult times, the one you return to again and again, or the one you're still holding on to in the waiting, the promise that feels just beyond your grasp but keeps you hoping. Sharing your anchor might just be the lifeline someone else needs today. Let's begin, and let His Word breathe new life into yours. Imagine you've planted precious seeds, seeds of hope, dreams, and prayers. You water them diligently, give them sunlight, tend the soil. You stand over the earth, day after day, looking for the first hint of green. But there's nothing, just dirt. The days turn into weeks, then months. Doubt begins to creep in. Did the seeds die? Was the soil barren? Did you do something wrong? You checked the instructions. You did everything right, didn't you? You feel the weight of disappointment settle heavy on your shoulders. It's not just about the seed. It feels deeply personal. A reflection of your efforts, perhaps even your worthiness. You wonder if your prayers weren't fervent enough, your faith not strong enough, your timing not right. The silence isn't just empty, it feels accusatory. You compare your patch of earth to others where shoots are already reaching for the sun, and the comparison is a quiet ache in your chest. You see the visible progress in someone else's life, the answered prayer you've been longing for, the door that opened for them while yours remains stubbornly shut. And the contrast is stark, painful. Yet beneath the surface, hidden from your anxious eyes, a miracle is happening. The seed, though unseen, is cracking open. In the darkness, a tiny, tender root is reaching down, anchoring itself, drawing up unseen nutrients from the soil. This hidden process is essential for the plant to survive the storms that will inevitably come, to stand tall and eventually reach for the light. Your waiting can feel exactly like that barren soil. You look out at your life and see no visible growth, no outward sign of progress in the area you've poured your heart into. You might feel unproductive, stuck in a season of stagnation, or even forgotten by the world and by God. The wilderness is not marked by lush greenery, but by sand and silence. It is in these quiet, often frustrating seasons that the most vital work is being done within you. Roots of resilience, trust, and character are growing deep, unseen by the casual observer, often unseen even by you. God isn't absent during this subterranean season. He is the gardener. He is the one providing the moisture and nutrients you need to anchor yourself firmly in Him. He is meticulously tending the soil of your soul, ensuring the conditions are just right for the critical work happening below the surface. The spiritual insight here is profound, life-altering if you grasp it. God's most critical work in us often happens out of sight, below the surface of our visible circumstances. We yearn for the visible growth, the outward manifestations of blessing, the above-ground evidence that God is moving. But He is often more concerned with the below-ground foundations, the strength of our roots, the depth of our trust, the resilience of our character. He knows that without deep roots, the plant cannot withstand the winds and rains. Without a strong foundation of faith, we cannot endure the trials of life and truly flourish in His light. The waiting is not empty. It is fertile ground for God's hidden work. The stillness is not abandonment. It is the quiet space where He strengthens your core. Growth often looks like stillness. Strength is found in the yielding. Surrender your need to see immediate results. It is a heavy burden to carry, this constant scrutiny of the surface. Release the anxiety of measuring your worth or God's faithfulness by what is visible today. Trust that while you are waiting on God to change your circumstances, He is profoundly working in you, changing you. He is cultivating qualities that cannot be grown in the sunlight of easy answers and immediate gratification. Patience, perseverance, deeper dependence on Him alone, unwavering hope even when things look bleak, a quiet confidence that does not rely on external validation. These are the fruits of the subterranean season. These are the roots that will sustain you when the storms rage. Ask yourself, not just when will things change, but what hidden strength or root is God wanting to grow in me in this quiet season? Look inward, not just outward. Listen not for the loud trumpet of breakthrough yet, but for the quiet whisper of the Spirit nurturing the seeds of faith deep within your soul. Trust the unseen process. Trust the gardener. He is faithful, and His most beautiful work often begins in the darkness. The vast, dark canvas stretches above, each pinprick of light a burning beacon in the inky blackness. You stand there, perhaps not literally under a desert sky like the patriarch of old, but under your own starry sky. A promise God whispered to your heart, a hope He planted deep within your soul. You see the countless possibilities in His word, the infinite power held in His hand, just as Abraham saw the uncountable stars. God had promised him descendants as numerous as those distant lights, a great nation, a legacy that would bless the world. He was an old man, his wife beyond childbearing years, their home echoing with silence where the laughter of children should have been. The stars remained countless, mocking in their abundance, while his arms remained empty. Years passed. Decades stretched like the desert horizon. The promise felt not just distant, but sometimes cruel in its delay. A beautiful dream that seemed increasingly impossible under the harsh light of reality. There were moments, documented in Scripture, born of human fear and impatience, attempts to help God's timing along, grasping for a tangible outcome when faith felt stretched too thin. The barrenness before him seemed insurmountable. The gap between God's spoken word and his lived experience felt wide enough to swallow hope whole. Perhaps you know that gap intimately. You have prayed for healing, for a prodigal's return, for provision, for clarity, for a breakthrough, and the silence is deafening, the reality stubbornly unchanged. It feels like standing under a sky full of promises, while your feet are firmly planted on barren ground. The weight of time passing without fulfillment can feel unbearable, a slow erosion of trust. But Abraham's journey under that starlit sky reveals a profound spiritual truth that transcends the specific promise of descendants. Faith, true faith in the waiting, isn't just believing in the promise. It is fundamentally believing in the promiser through the long, uncertain wait. It's choosing to lift your gaze from the barrenness before you, the unanswered prayer, the unchanging circumstance, the persistent doubt, to the faithfulness of the one who made the covenant. God didn't give Abraham a detailed timeline. He gave him a person to trust. He didn't offer a map of how it would happen. He offered himself as the guarantee. Waiting on God isn't passive resignation. It is active reliance on His character. It's trusting that His wisdom is deeper than your understanding, His love fiercer than your fear, and His timing sovereign, not because He delays arbitrarily, but because He orchestrates everything for His glory and your ultimate good. He turns hidden seasons into holy stories. Is your focus today on the promise that hasn't arrived, the specific star you desperately want to see transformed into reality before your eyes? Or is it on the promiser, the one who put every star in its place, who knows the number of hairs on your head, who holds your past, present, and future in his hands? Choose to lift your eyes from the barren ground to the faithful God who counts the stars, and trust that he is working, even when the night feels longest. You pace a familiar, dusty path. It feels like years now, this waiting, this uncertainty, this detour that never seems to end. Where is the clear direction you prayed for? Where is the open door you expected? You look around, and the landscape feels dry, barren, repeating the same tests, the same frustrations. This wasn't in the plan. This wasn't the promised route. You wonder if you've taken a wrong turn, if God has somehow forgotten you here, alone in this vast, empty space. Remember another people, centuries ago, delivered from bondage with a mighty hand. They were promised a land flowing with abundance, a place of rest and promise. A journey that should have been swift, perhaps weeks, stretched into 4 decades. 40 years they wandered the wilderness, not because God was lost, but because they were not ready. 40 years of hunger, met by manna from heaven, thirst quenched by water from a rock, darkness guided by a pillar of fire, daytime heat shielded by a cloud. 40 years of murmuring, of fear, of learning, of failing, and of witnessing incredible divine provision. The wilderness wasn't a punishment. It was a curriculum. It was God's classroom, designed to strip away the remnants of slavery, the self-reliance forged in hardship, the idols hidden in their hearts, the fear that shackled their faith. It was designed to teach them radical dependence on Him alone, to test their obedience not in comfort, but in crushing vulnerability. It was the forge where a scattered people were shaped into a nation capable of receiving and stewarding the promise. They had to lose themselves to find the path He had for them. Perhaps you are feeling the sting of your own wilderness season now. It's uncomfortable, confusing, isolating. The expected timeline has vanished. But the profound spiritual truth is this: God is using this wilderness to purify you, to prepare you, and ultimately to prove His unwavering faithfulness to you. He doesn't just want to give you the promised land. He is diligently preparing you for the fullness of the promise. He is lovingly removing the slavery remnants within your own soul, the anxiety that drives you, the need for control, the lack of trust that makes you question His lead. Instead of fixing your gaze solely on the exit, asking, "When will this end? When will I get out of here?" God invites you to shift your posture. Lean in and quietly ask, "What do you want to teach me here, God? What lessons am I meant to learn in this dryness?" Trust that He is not absent. His presence is your pillar of cloud by day, shielding you. His presence is your pillar of fire by night, illuminating the next step, even when the path ahead seems hidden. He is leading you, even through this long, unexpected detour. The detour is the way to becoming who He needs you to be for what is next. You sit in the quiet ache of disappointment. Life promised elevation, perhaps even whispers of destiny spoken over your spirit. Dreams like Joseph's, vivid and full of light. But instead of the mountaintop, you find yourself on a long descent. Every step feels like a retraction, a cruel reversal of the hopeful path you thought you were on. You look around, and the landscape is not one of progress, but of pits, of false accusations, of doors slamming shut where you expected them to open. It's easy to question if the dream was real, if the promise was just a mirage shimmering in a season of naive faith. Consider Joseph, the boy favored by his father, adorned with a coat symbolizing a destiny of prominence, given visions straight from the heart of God. Yet, the path to those visions wasn't paved with ease. It was a rough, brutal slide downward. Brothers, consumed by envy, tossed him into a pit, the first taste of betrayal, a dark taste of betrayal. Suffocating void, contrasting sharply with the sunlit fields where he received his dreams. Sold into slavery, he entered the household of Potiphar, a season of relative stability, even success, only for it to be shattered by a false accusation that landed him in prison. Years melted away in that dungeon, a place of forgotten promises and lingering injustice. His waiting was not passive. It was weighted with the heavy chains of circumstance that seemed to mock every divine declaration. How could the boy who saw himself ruling be languishing here, forgotten? This is where faith is tested in the crucible of contradiction. When the path downward feels like a negation of everything God seemed to promise. The spiritual truth, however, is breathtakingly complex and often revealed only in hindsight. God uses the descent. He doesn't just allow the pits and prisons. He incorporates them into the ascent. The pit led to the slave market, hardening Joseph for the world's harsh realities. The slave market led to Potiphar's house, teaching him management and integrity even under duress. Potiphar's house, through injustice, led to the prison, a place of darkness, yes, but also a place where God's gift of interpreting dreams found its true purpose, connecting him eventually to Pharaoh himself. The long descent was the unexpected, refining, essential path to elevation. Perhaps you are navigating your own pit or prison right now, a career setback that feels like a demotion, a relationship loss that feels like abandonment, a season of illness or financial strain that feels like being chained in a dark room, moments where things seem to get worse before there's any sign of better. It's in these moments that the character God is forging within you is being refined. Solitude can become a sacred space for shaping. Suffering, a classroom for resilience and deeper dependence. Joseph's experiences didn't just happen to him, they happened for him, equipping him for the immense responsibility he would one day carry. Can you see, even dimly through the shadows, how God might be using this season to shape your character, test the very fiber of your faith, and prepare you for something grander than you can currently perceive? Your waiting in the pit is not a waste. It is part of God's intricate tapestry, weaving together even the painful threads of your descent for a beautiful, redemptive purpose. He is at work in the darkness, crafting a path upward you cannot yet see. You trace the outline of the dust on the window pane, the same way you trace the contours of the question that lives rent-free in your mind. Why? Why this delay? Why this struggle that feels endless, like a wilderness stretching before you? Why now? When everything seemed finally ready, when you were just about to step into the light. It's a question as old as sorrow itself, a desperate cry for a blueprint, a reason you can hold in your hand, something tangible to make sense of the silence where you expected an answer, or a breakthrough, or simply relief. We crave understanding. We yearn for a clear map showing the divine logic behind the detours and the unexpected stops. Sometimes, the why feels apparent. Perhaps this season of waiting is a refining fire, teaching you patience, chipping away at self-reliance, calling you into deeper dependence on the one who holds the universe together. Or maybe it's an obedience test, a call to trust the path even when it leads through shadowed valleys. These are valid reasons, visible lessons etched into the landscape of your soul. But often, the deepest, most profound why is tied to something far larger, something operating on a canvas you cannot see, a divine strategy unfolding in realms beyond your earthly sight. Think of Daniel, a man of deep faith who prayed with fervent urgency, yet saw his answer delayed for 21 long days. He fasted, he sought God, and in the heavenly realms, a battle raged. A prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood the messenger sent with Daniel's answer until Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help him. Daniel 10, chapter 12, verse 13. Daniel didn't know the cosmic why of that excruciating delay. He didn't see the spiritual opposition, the clash of unseen forces holding back the very thing he prayed for. Yet he persevered. He remained faithful in the waiting, anchoring himself not in understanding the delay, but in trusting the character of the God he served. Your waiting might not just be about preparing you. It could be about aligning circumstances you know nothing about, influencing other people whose hearts need to be softened or moved, blocking unseen opposition that seeks to derail God's purpose, or fulfilling a timetable known only to God Himself, a perfect convergence of events that must happen in a specific order for the greatest good and His ultimate glory. Your tiny mustard seed of faith, planted in the dark soil of delay, might be part of a grander harvest happening in fields you cannot even imagine. The spiritual insight here is breathtakingly simple, yet profoundly challenging. God's perspective is infinite, while ours is painfully finite. We see only a sliver of the tapestry. He sees the entire masterpiece, the threads of countless lives and cosmic events interwoven with yours. His timing isn't just about you, it's about His entire unfolding plan, a narrative so vast and intricate that our finite minds can barely grasp its edges. Can you release the insistent grip of needing to know the why? Can you trade your demand for explanation for a quiet, revolutionary trust in the who? His reasons are always rooted in perfect love and sovereign wisdom, even when they remain hidden behind the veil of mystery. There is a quiet strength found in surrendering your need for answers, finding peace not in clarity, but in the unwavering certainty that God is working, coordinating countless seen and unseen factors for a purpose far grander than you can currently fathom. Choose to believe that even without understanding the full why, you can rest in the assurance that the author of your story is good. He is faithful, and He is writing a narrative far more glorious than you could ever demand or imagine. You hold a mental calendar, ticking off days, weeks, maybe even years. This deadline, that age, by then, if X happens, then Y can finally fall into place. You trace the lines of your own expectation, drawing the map you believe God should follow. You build a timeline, brick by anxious brick, for how and when the prayer should be answered, the promise fulfilled, the breakthrough delivered. And when His clock doesn't match yours, When the silence stretches past your self-imposed date, frustration sets in. A knot tightens in your gut. Do you try to force doors open that remain stubbornly shut? Do you manipulate situations, gently at first, then maybe not so gently? Do you feel the slow creep of despair, the urge to give up entirely because your expected moment has passed? This insistence on our own schedule, this grasping at the reins of time itself, is a battleground where much spiritual peace is lost. But true peace in waiting, the kind that settles deep into your bones, comes not from clinging tighter to your watch, but from surrendering your timeline completely to God's. Think of the disciples after Jesus ascended into heaven. He didn't give them a precise date or a countdown app. He simply told them to wait in Jerusalem for the promise of the Father, for the Holy Spirit. They didn't set a deadline. They simply obeyed and waited, expectantly together. They gathered, they prayed, they trusted the command to wait more than they trusted their own understanding of how long. And in God's perfect sovereign timing, not a moment sooner or later, on the day of Pentecost, the Spirit came with power, fulfilling the promise in a way that exploded their expectations and launched a movement. The spiritual insight here isn't just that God's timing is good, it's that it is profoundly, impossibly perfect. It's not merely the right time according to some cosmic schedule. It's the time that maximizes His glory, integrates perfectly with a million other unfolding events you cannot see, and ultimately works for your deepest, most ultimate good, far beyond the immediate relief you crave. Surrendering your timeline isn't a passive resignation, a sigh of defeat. It's an active choice of profound trust. It's saying, God, I give you my watch. My calendar feels urgent, but your rhythm is better, wiser, more loving than mine. It's an act of faith that finds control in letting go and freedom in relinquishing the need to know the when. Where are you holding tightly to your own expected timeline? Is it for a relationship, a career change, healing, a financial breakthrough? What would it truly look like to unclench your fist from that date, that deadline, that carefully constructed expectation you've built, and surrender it completely into His hands? True waiting in the kingdom of God is not just enduring the passage of time. It's actively entrusting the entire outcome and the timing to the one who sees the end from the beginning, who holds eternity in His hands. He is never early, never late, but always, always on time for His purpose. You sit in the silence, wondering if your prayer was even heard. The wind taps the window, like God's whisper waiting for your stillness. You've heard about faith for breakthrough, haven't you? Faith to see the miracle, the mountain move, the sudden dramatic answer that changes everything in an instant. That's a powerful kind of faith, indeed. But what about the other kind? The faith for the waiting. The faith that holds on when the heavens feel silent, when the path ahead is shrouded in fog, when the breakthrough you begged for hasn't arrived. This kind of faith, faith in the process, faith in the quiet, faith in the unseen work God is doing, is arguably deeper, more resilient. It's the faith of the farmer who plants tiny seeds in the dark earth and walks away, believing in the unseen forces of nature and the utter reliability of the seasons to bring forth life. He doesn't dig up the seed every day to check. He trusts the process, trusting the source of the harvest. It's also the faith of the prisoner, like Paul and Silas, unjustly chained in a Philippian jail cell, yet singing hymns of praise at midnight. They didn't just have faith for deliverance, though that came. They had faith in God's sovereignty, faith in His goodness, faith that He was present and active even in their chains. Their faith wasn't measured by the walls that fell, but by the worship that rose within them while the walls still stood. Your faith is not measured only by the mountains you move, the battles you win, or the miracles you receive. It is profoundly measured by the valleys you walk through with steady, quiet trust. The spiritual insight here is profound. Faith is not just a tool to get what you want from God, like some divine vending machine. It is, first and foremost, the posture of your heart towards God Himself, regardless of your circumstances. It's believing He is good, even when your situation feels overwhelmingly bad. It's believing He is working, even when you see absolutely no movement, no progress, no change on the horizon. This faith for the waiting reframes everything. It asks, what does this steady, trusting posture look like in your life today? It might mean continuing to pray when your words feel like they hit the ceiling and bounce back, cold and ineffective. It might mean continuing to serve others, continuing to show up in love, even when you feel utterly depleted and unseen yourself. It might mean continuing to trust His character, that He is loving, wise, and powerful, even when you cannot possibly understand His plan, or lack thereof, from your perspective. Perhaps clarity comes not from seeing the end of the path, but from simply trusting the guide walking beside you, unseen. Your faith is not failing in this season of waiting. It is being refined in this often uncomfortable fire. It is becoming stronger, purer, and more deeply rooted in the unshakable reality of who God is, not just in what He can do for you. You sit in the quiet, the silence stretching thin like pulled taffy. Another day dawns, looking much like the last and the one before that. The waiting persists. Perhaps you feel the weight of this in-between place settling deep into your bones, not just as a circumstance, but as an identity. The world asks, "What do you do?" And the waiting season whispers back, "Nothing." If you're waiting for that job, the silence can make unemployed feel less like a temporary state and more like who you are, overshadowing the truth that you are a beloved child of God, actively seeking His path. If healing tarries, the label of patient or sick might cling tighter than your identity in Christ. The ache for a relationship, a family, a different life stage, it can make incomplete or overlooked feel like an accurate description rather than a lie whispered by the enemy. The danger isn't just the delay, it's allowing the waiting to define you. It's letting the absence of a visible outcome become your primary identifier. Your worth is not, has never been, and will never be tied to a specific role, a particular status, or a linear progression of events on your timeline. Your purpose isn't measured by manifest results on your schedule. The wilderness season is not a pause button on who you are. Paradoxically, it can be the very space where God clarifies who you are in Him. Your value does not diminish because a door hasn't opened yet. Your call hasn't been revoked because the promise hasn't appeared in tangible form. What labels have you unconsciously picked up in this dry, waiting season? Gently, quietly, name them. Is it failure? Forgotten? Irrelevant? Hold them up to the light. See how flimsy they are compared to the truth God speaks over you. You are chosen. You are redeemed. You are called. You are cherished. Regardless, your identity is secure. anchored not in shifting circumstances or the ebb and flow of visible progress, but in his unchanging, unwavering love. Even here, in the midst of the longest, most uncertain wait, you are simply and profoundly his. The pain of comparison. It settles in your gut, a quiet ache when the email arrives announcing their promotion, or when the wedding photos flood your feed, or the birth announcement pops up. It's the sting of seeing someone else step into the blessing you've been diligently praying for, waiting for, believing for. You thought this was your season, your turn, your breakthrough moment. But the door opened for them again. Social media becomes both a window and a tormentor, showcasing curated highlight reels of lives seemingly sprinting forward, reaching milestones with effortless grace. Meanwhile, you feel rooted in the mundane, stuck in the quiet, the waiting. The world spins on, and you stand still, or so it feels. This is where comparison breeds, a venomous thief that steals the simple joy of the present moment and destroys the peace you fought so hard to find. It whispers insidious lies into the vulnerable corners of your heart. God favors them more. You're being left behind, forgotten. Your faith isn't strong enough. That's why you're still here. But the profound, liberating spiritual truth is that God's plan for your life is breathtakingly unique, a tapestry woven specifically for you, with threads of grace, challenge, joy, and waiting that no one else possesses in quite the same pattern. Your path, your timing, the specific lessons you need to learn, and the breakthroughs designed for your character are distinct. Comparing your journey to another's is not only unfair, it's like comparing apples and oranges. Forgetting the unique soil and sunlight God provides specifically for your growth. Remember the manna in the wilderness? God provided just enough for that day, for each person, tailored to their immediate needs. You couldn't collect someone else's manna for tomorrow, nor could you hoard yesterday's. It was a daily provision, a lesson in present moment trust. Your journey is your journey. Their provision isn't meant to sustain you, and yours isn't meant for them. When the floodwaters of comparison threaten to drown your spirit, pause. Gently, deliberately, redirect your gaze. Not back at the highlight reels, but back to God's promises for you. Celebrate others' blessings genuinely, not as a sign of your lack, but as a beautiful display of God's goodness in their story. Know that their season of flourishing does not negate your own unfolding narrative. Trust that God is working in your life with the same faithfulness, the same meticulous intention, the same profound love He shows in theirs. Your waiting is not a sign of being overlooked or forgotten. It is a sign of being personally tended by the Father, who knows exactly what you need, precisely when you need it. His timing is not a punishment. It is often His deepest protection, His most profound preparation. You are not behind. You are exactly where His plan is unfolding for you, right now. Trusting God always means trusting His unique timing for you. You stand at the edge of urgency, the world spinning faster than your breath. Every notification buzzes. Every task demands immediate action. You are conditioned for speed, wired for results, taught that value comes from constant motion, from the relentless doing. Waiting feels like a failure, a glitch in the efficient machine you strive to be. Your hands itch to control, to push the narrative forward, to make it happen. Because stillness in this reality feels like surrender to stagnation. But the spiritual life invites you into a different current, a profound counter-rhythm, the gentle, insistent pulse of grace. Think of Jesus, not always on the move, but withdrawing to mountains, to quiet places, seeking the Father's presence in the hush. Remember the disciples, told to wait in Jerusalem, not to strategize or campaign, but to tarry until the Spirit arrived. Major shifts in salvation history often unfolded after periods of preparation unseen, of quiet cultivation beneath the surface. The wilderness wasn't wasted time. It was the making of a prophet. The tomb wasn't the end. It was the silent pause before resurrection power. Waiting in this sacred rhythm isn't a passive void. It's an invitation. It is a posture of trust, a deliberate release of your grip on the steering wheel, choosing to rest in the unshakable sovereignty of God. It's the quiet knowing that His work isn't measured by your frantic output, but by His steady, unseen hand moving through all things. Sometimes the most powerful movement isn't outward striving, but inward abiding, a quiet, receptive stillness in His presence. This is where the profound truth of grace deepens. Grace is more than just unmerited favor. It is the active, empowering presence of God Himself at work within you, enabling you to do what you could never do alone. But often, receiving this divine empowerment requires a different stance, not one of frantic effort, but of receptive waiting, like cupping your hands to catch falling rain. The effort isn't in the catching, but in the posture of receiving. Are you subtly resisting this slower rhythm God might be calling you into? Are you so fixated on the destination, the answered prayer, the breakthrough, the visible result, that you're missing the journey itself, overlooking the grace that is fully available in this very moment, right here in the waiting? Waiting seasons are not hindrances to your relationship with God. They are often the fertile ground where intimacy grows deepest, where you learn to trust Him not just for what He can give, but for who He is. Practice stillness not as an obligation, but as an act of love. Listen for His voice, not in the clamor of your plans, but in the quiet whispers of your heart. Allow His grace to be the unseen current that sustains you through the discomfort of not controlling outcomes. Release the pressure to manipulate the timing. Embrace this gentle, unfolding rhythm of His perfect grace, trusting that even in the longest waits, His presence is the promise. The silence presses in. You look at the mountain before you, the promise lingering somewhere just beyond the horizon, and a familiar feeling settles heavy in your chest. Inadequacy. Is my faith strong enough for this weight? The whispers of doubt begin, insidious and persistent. You picture the giants of Scripture: Abraham, who left everything; Moses, who faced down Pharaoh; Paul, who endured countless trials. Their faith seems like an impenetrable fortress, while yours feels like a fragile sapling swaying precariously in the wind. You struggle with doubt, fear gnaws at your edges, and patience has worn thin, a frayed thread about to snap. A terrible thought surfaces. Maybe my wavering faith is why God is delaying. Maybe I haven't believed hard enough. Let's be honest with ourselves and with God. Faith isn't a static quantity, fixed forever at 100%. It waxes and wanes, like the moon in the night sky, or a fire needing tending. There were moments the disciples themselves doubted, cowering in a boat during a storm, asking Jesus if He even cared. Even Jesus's closest followers struggled with fear and misunderstanding right up until the end. The profound spiritual insight here is liberating. What truly matters isn't the strength of your faith, but the glorious object of your faith. Is your faith however small and trembling, placed in a great big God? Jesus spoke of faith as small as a mustard seed, having the power to move mountains, not because the seed itself is mighty, but because the one it trusts in is omnipotent. The truth is, God doesn't require perfect, unwavering faith before He acts. He meets you precisely in your weakness, right here, right now. He is infinitely patient with your doubts, your fears, your frustrations. He knows your human frailty better than you do. And in a gentle paradox, He often delights in demonstrating His boundless power through your very vulnerability, showing that it is His strength, not yours, that accomplishes His purposes. He isn't waiting for you to muster up some superhuman level of belief through sheer willpower. He is waiting for you to lean on Him, the one who is the author and perfecter of your faith. Hebrews 12:2. If your faith feels weak today, don't hide it or pretend it's stronger than it is. Offer that very weakness to Him. Be brutally honest about your struggles, your fears, your lack of strength. Speak it aloud in the quiet space between your heart and His. Ask Him plainly and simply to increase your faith, to help you believe even when every circumstance screams otherwise. His strength is made perfect, completed, in your weakness. 2 Corinthians 12:9. Your waiting season, your valley of doubt, isn't fundamentally a test of your ability to maintain an ironclad faith. It is an invitation to lean more heavily, more completely, on His unfailing, unwavering faithfulness. Your small faith anchored to a great God is a powerful, unstoppable force. Lean. Trust. He is holding you. You sit in the quiet, the stillness heavy in the air, and you look at your life like a paused film strip. Nothing is visibly happening. The breakthroughs you prayed for haven't appeared. The doors you knocked on remain shut. It feels like a blank page, a chapter where the pen has simply stopped writing. You see the dramatic stories around you, others experiencing sudden shifts, visible miracles, clear progress, and yours feels unseen. This waiting season, this period of apparent inactivity, can breed a gnawing anxiety, a quiet doubt that God is either absent or simply not working on your behalf. Your fear whispers that maybe your story isn't as important, or that you've somehow missed the signposts you were looking for. You look for grand gestures, the Red Sea parting in your path, the walls of Jericho tumbling down before you, the lame walking right into your life, but see only the ordinary, the mundane, the unchanged landscape of your present reality. Yet the truth of God's kingdom often operates in dimensions invisible to the human eye. Think of the story of Esther. It unfolds within the opulent, pagan palace of Ahasuerus. God's people are facing annihilation, a decree sealed by the king himself. Where is God in this narrative? Curiously, His name is never mentioned, not once in the entire book. There is no burning bush, no pillar of fire, no voice from heaven. But look closer. See the precise timing of Esther's ascent to queen. Observe the sleepless night of the king that led him to read the Chronicles and discover Mordecai's forgotten loyalty. Witness the seemingly random turn of events that thwarted Haman's wicked plot just as it was about to succeed. God's hand wasn't loud or dramatic. It was meticulous, hidden, woven into the very fabric of seemingly coincidental circumstances. It was a silent orchestration, a divine choreography happening behind the scenes, unseen until its stunning culmination. This is the spiritual insight that can anchor your soul in the waiting. God is just as active, just as powerful, just as intricately involved in the silence and the stillness as He is in the storm and the breakthrough. Your waiting season isn't a blank space. It's often the fertile ground where God's hidden work is taking place. Beneath the surface of your life, unseen by you or anyone else, He is aligning people you haven't met, shifting circumstances you can't influence, preparing opportunities you can't yet see, working in the hearts of others who hold pieces of your future, and fighting spiritual battles on your behalf you're not even aware of. The growth of a mighty oak happens not in the visible reaching for the sky, but in the unseen, determined pushing of roots deep into the dark soil. His work is often quiet, foundational, unseen until the fullness of time reveals the intricate masterpiece He has been weaving. Can you trust that even when you see nothing happening, even when the silence feels deafening, God is working? His hidden work is not less powerful. It is often the very foundation upon which the visible breakthrough will stand. It's the strength being built in your character during hardship, the resilience forged in the fire of frustration, the deepened trust developing in the absence of answers. These are the unseen preparations. Look back at your life. Are there moments now, in retrospect, where you can clearly see God's unseen hand guiding, protecting, or positioning you through events you didn't understand at the time? Carry that memory into your current weight. He is still the God of the unseen, orchestrating your story with divine purpose. Trusting this hidden work is not about having all the answers, but about knowing the character of the one writing your story. He is working all things together for your good. Romans 8:28. Even now, in ways you cannot yet perceive. This stillness is His canvas. His unseen strokes are preparing the way. You sit in the quiet, watching the dust motes dance in the lone shaft of sunlight filtering through the window. Another day slips by, another week. The momentum you craved feels distant, a receding tide, leaving you stranded on the shore of what's next. You tell yourself purpose is built on action, on forward strides, on tangible achievements ticked off a list. And here, in this unexpected, unchosen pause, you feel adrift. Like your purpose button has been pressed into the off position, or worse, permanently deactivated. You wonder if you've missed a turn, if God's plan for you has been temporarily suspended while the world rushes past. The temptation is strong to believe that productivity equals purpose, that significance is measured only in motion. But what if God defines purpose differently? What if, in this very moment of perceived stillness, your life is not paused, but being prepared? The biblical story is replete with seasons of quiet preparation before powerful unfoldings. Joseph in the pit and the palace, years shaped by injustice and waiting before leadership emerged. Moses on the backside of the desert, 40 years of shepherding before leading a nation. Even Jesus, the Savior of the world, spent 30 years in quiet obscurity, honing skills, living simply, growing in wisdom and stature before his public ministry began. That carpenter shop in Nazareth wasn't a void. It was a holy classroom, a training ground for the hands that would break bread and heal the sick. His ultimate purpose wasn't paused. It was being quietly forged in the unseen years. This is the gentle paradox. You find active purpose in passive waiting. Your greatest growth might happen when you feel most stuck. God isn't asking for frantic striving in this season. He's inviting you into profound presence. He's not just interested in what you do when things are moving, but who you are becoming while you wait. This pause is not a delay of purpose. It is often a vital part of your purpose. It's a season designed to refine character, teaching patience that the rush of forward motion could never impart. It's a time to develop perseverance, learning to take one faithful step at a time, even when the path ahead is shrouded in mist. It builds a deeper, more desperate dependence on God, stripping away self-reliance and anchoring your hope in the only one who is truly unwavering. Perhaps God's purpose for you in this pause is simpler, yet infinitely profound. Maybe it's a season to just be with Him, to learn the quiet peace of resting in His presence, not for the outcome, but in the intimacy itself. Your shared experience becomes the very soil of ministry, a quiet unfolding of God's love through the cracks of vulnerability. Don't wait for the waiting to be over to seek purpose. Your Heavenly Father is not wasting this time. He is actively present, actively working, actively shaping you into the person He designed you to be. Ask Him, right here, right now, in the stillness of this moment, God, what purpose do you have for me in this pause? What do you want to build in me? Who do you want me to minister to? How can I simply abide more deeply with you today? Listen not for the thunderclap announcement, but for the quiet whisper in your spirit, the gentle nudge towards faithfulness in the quiet. Your purpose hasn't vanished. It's transforming, deepening, becoming more fully rooted in Him who is your ultimate purpose. Trust that the hands that crafted the universe are holding you securely, even when you feel suspended between here and there. He is not just preparing you for your future purpose. He is fulfilling a sacred purpose in your present pause. You sit in the silence of the waiting, heavy and thick, like a physical weight pressing on your chest. You prayed, you wrestled, you laid it all out before Him, spilling your heart onto the floor of your hidden room. And still, the answer feels distant, the promise unfulfilled, the breakthrough nowhere in sight. This waiting isn't a passive state, it's an active pain. It's filled with the ache of frustration, a knot of sadness that tightens with each passing day, a fog of confusion that blurs the path forward, and the sting of disappointment that feels like tiny cuts on your soul. And perhaps, in the midst of this raw vulnerability, another layer of pain emerges: guilt. You feel it creeping in, whispering that you shouldn't be feeling this way. You should have more faith, right? A truly faithful person would be steadfast, unshakable, radiating peace, even in the storm. Your tears feel like a betrayal of belief, a sign of spiritual weakness. You try to stuff them down, to put on a brave face for yourself, for others, perhaps even for God. You fear your pain is an inconvenience to His power, a doubt in His plan. But the ancient scriptures tell a different story. They introduce us to a God who is not intimidated by your storm, who is not put off by your sorrow, who is utterly unafraid of your pain. The Psalms, those timeless songs of the human heart, are not filled solely with praise and thanksgiving. They are saturated with lament, with raw questions cried out into the darkness, with expressions of deep despair that feel startlingly modern. David, a man after God's own heart, didn't hide his agony. He poured it out, unfiltered, before the throne. "How long, O Lord," he wailed, "will you forget me forever?" He spoke of tears being his food, of his bones wasting away. These weren't whispers of doubt. They were honest cries of a soul in genuine anguish, wrestling with God, not apart from Him. And Jesus, the Son of God, stepped into the fullness of human experience. He didn't just teach about compassion. He embodied it. Standing before the tomb of his friend Lazarus, knowing full well that resurrection was moments away, Jesus wept. He saw the grief of Mary and Martha. He felt the weight of death's temporary victory, and his heart broke with theirs. His tears weren't a lack of faith in his Father's power. They were a profound affirmation of his shared humanity and his deep empathy for our suffering. Your emotions, your tears, they are real, they are valid, they are seen, and they are met with divine compassion. The profound spiritual insight here is this: God doesn't just observe your waiting from a distance. He doesn't just see the circumstances you're enduring. He sees your heart in the waiting. He is intimately acquainted with your sorrow. He knows the backstory to every teardrop. And He does something truly remarkable, something almost unfathomable in its tenderness. He collects your tears. Psalm 56:8 speaks of God putting our tears in His bottle, recording our wanderings. It's an image of divine care so personal, so specific, it takes your breath away. Your tears are not lost to the void. They are precious to Him. They are carefully gathered, each one a testament to your journey, your struggle, your trust, even when that trust feels fragile. They are not forgotten. They are held. He is also described as being close to the brokenhearted, Psalm 34:18. Not because they are strong, but because they are broken. Not because they have it all together, but because they are falling apart. Your brokenness doesn't push Him away. It draws Him near. You don't need to perform strength for Him, to pretend the ache isn't real, to plaster on a smile when your heart is weeping. That brave face you put on for the world, you can take it off in His presence. He invites you, urges you even, to bring your authentic self. Bring the messy emotions, the confusing doubts, the heavy weariness, the silent despair. He can handle it all. His love is not conditional on your composure. Perhaps this waiting, painful as it is not primarily about getting the outcome you desire. Perhaps it is, paradoxically, an invitation to intimacy, an invitation to share the deepest, most vulnerable parts of yourself with the one who understands completely, who sees you fully, and who loves you unconditionally. Your tears, the very things you might feel ashamed of, can become a pathway to a deeper connection with Him. When the tears come, don't fight them. Don't hide them. Offer them. Offer them to God as an act of desperate, raw trust. Trust that He is indeed big enough to handle the immense weight of your pain. Trust that He is faithful enough to walk with you through it, to comfort you, even when the resolution feels far off. He is near, closer than you can imagine, even in the deepest ache of your waiting heart. The silence stretches, heavy and unanswered. You've prayed the prayer, released the fervent plea into the quiet room, and still, the circumstances scream louder than your faith. The waiting isn't just a passive pause. It feels like a relentless pressure against the fragile walls of your hope. Doubt, like a persistent shadow, begins to whisper its insidious questions. Is He listening? Does He care? If He is good, why this pain? If He is powerful, why this delay? The garden of your heart feels barren, the leaves of assurance withered by the harsh winds of reality. Every unopened door, every unanswered call, every sunrise that looks just like the day before becomes another argument against the promises you desperately cling to. You sit there, perhaps tears blurring the world, wondering if the faith you held so dear was merely a beautiful illusion against the stark backdrop of a difficult life. This is where the battle often rages fiercest, not just against the external storm, but against the internal erosion of trust in the one you thought held the reins. But here, in the crucible of your uncertainty, lies the profound, often painful truth. Ultimately, waiting on God's timing comes down to trusting His character. It's less about having all the answers for why things are unfolding this way, and everything about knowing who is holding the threads of your life. The questions pounding in your mind: is He good? Is He loving? Is He faithful? Is He sovereign? Is He wise? Are the very questions that the enemy uses to destabilize your soul. He wants you to judge God's nature based on your shifting, often painful circumstances, rather than by His unchanging, revealed truth. Your current reality might indeed scream out with a deafening volume, but the ancient testimony of His Word consistently, unwaveringly testifies to His unchanging nature. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. His identity is not subject to your season of drought or abundance. He doesn't change His mind or His heart based on whether you feel blessed or broken. The spiritual insight is this: your trust in the waiting is not blind optimism. It is informed by the revealed character of God in Scripture and in your past experiences of His faithfulness. It's an anchor dropped not into the turbulent waters of your present, but into the bedrock of who He is. When doubt whispers its insidious lies, that you've been forgotten, that He's arbitrary, that He doesn't care, you must consciously, deliberately anchor yourself in the truth of who He is. This is the quiet, internal work of faith. It's not about summoning strength you don't possess. It's about directing your gaze away from the waves crashing around you and fixing it firmly on the lighthouse of His character. Read His promises not just as future possibilities, but as reflections of His inherent nature. He promises to never leave you because He is faithful. He promises to work things for good because He is sovereign and good. He promises wisdom because He is the source of all knowledge. These promises flow directly from who He is, not from what you are doing or what you are experiencing. Remember His past faithfulness, both in the grand narratives of biblical figures, tossed in their own storms and wildernesses, and in the quiet, personal moments of your own history where He saw you through. Recall the times you thought there was no way forward, yet found a path carved. The times you felt utterly alone, yet sensed an unseen presence. Cling to the truth that He is not arbitrary, not forgetful, not uncaring. He is intentional, sovereign, loving, and deeply personally invested in your good and His ultimate glory, which is often most beautifully displayed when His strength is made perfect in your weakness, when His timing defies your logic but reveals His perfect wisdom. What aspect of God's character do you need to focus on today to strengthen your trust in the waiting? Is it His goodness when circumstances feel anything but? Is it His wisdom when the path ahead is obscured? Is it His power when you feel utterly helpless? Meditate on that specific truth. Rehearse His faithfulness in your heart. Your wait does not negate His character. It is, paradoxically, an opportunity to see His character displayed in a new, deeper, more intimate way in your life. It is in the desert that you learn the rock provides water. It is in the storm that you learn He commands the waves. It is in the waiting that you learn the depth and constancy of who He is. You have walked through this exploration of waiting. You have acknowledged the silence that presses in, wrestled with the persistent tendrils of doubt, looked to the examples of those who navigated long, quiet passages before you, and considered the hidden purpose woven into the pause. Perhaps the circumstances haven't changed. The door you've knocked on remains stubbornly closed. The answer you yearned for hasn't arrived in the way or time you expected. But maybe, just maybe, as you have journeyed through these moments, something profound has shifted within you. You've begun to glimpse that waiting is not passive abandonment, not a cosmic oversight where you've been forgotten on the shelf. It is an active stance of faith, a posture of profound surrender, a refining fire that burns away impurities you didn't even know were there. It is a season of deep, unseen work, like roots pushing deeper into the soil where no one can witness their progress, strengthening the structure that will one day withstand the storm. God wasn't distant in the silence. He was nearer than you imagined, orchestrating, strengthening, and meticulously preparing you for what is to come. The biblical foundation holds firm, a bedrock beneath the shifting sands of circumstance. Abraham received his promise after decades of hope deferred. Joseph rose to power only after the pit, the slavery, the prison. Israel finally entered the promised land after 40 years in the wilderness. The disciples received the empowering Spirit after the long, confusing wait following the ascension, all in God's perfect, often delayed timing, after seasons of intense waiting and preparation. Your story, unfolding now, is still being written by the same faithful author who penned theirs. Even now, as you sit in the quiet that might still surround you, trust that God is not silent in His presence or His purpose. He is not merely waiting for a future moment to begin acting. He is present, He is working, and He is active in your waiting. He sees the deep longing etched onto your heart, the weariness that settles heavy on your soul, and that unwavering flicker of hope you still bravely hold on to, like a small lamp burning in the darkness. This season has not been wasted. It has built resilience you didn't know you possessed, forged character stronger than steel, and deepened your dependence on Him in ways prosperity never could. It has revealed truths about His unwavering faithfulness and your own capacity for enduring hope, truths you could only learn in the quiet, uncomfortable space of not yet. He is not late. His timing is perfect, though it rarely aligns with ours. He is not uncaring. His heart aches with yours. He is sovereign, infinitely wise, and deeply, relentlessly in love with you. He is building your roots deep where no eye can see, preparing you for a future breakthrough or unfolding that will be perfectly timed for your readiness and His glory. Lay down the heavy burden of trying to understand or control the timing. Release the need to figure it all out. Rest in the arms of the Father who holds all things, including your waiting heart, in His capable, loving hands. Even in the silence that surrounds you, learn to hear it with new ears. The quiet, constant, powerful presence of God, closer than your next breath, singing a song of unwavering love and faithfulness over you, assuring you that He is here, He is working, and He will never, ever leave you. Continue to trust Him, always. They didn't see the end, but they trusted the author, and that was enough.